Okay, so in my last live stream, I bought this stem, and in this video, I'm gonna show you how to install a BMX stem the right way, because sometimes people install them, they end up with problems, and they end up with bars slipping and all of these other things. So I'm gonna put this stem on, I'm gonna show you exactly how to install a stem so that you can install a stem on your BMX bike. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we have the bike on the bike rack. And what we're gonna need to do is, it depends how you wanna do this. You can do this two different ways. We can just loosen the pinch bolts on the stem, and then we can separate it, and then we can take our bars off, or we can take our bars off first. It's gonna be totally up to you. For the purpose of the video, it's just gonna be easier to leave this set up and take the bars off first, and then take off the stem. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get our 6mm Allen key, and we're gonna break all 4 bolts loose on here. And so I'm gonna do that. So with the top load stem, it's a little bit harder because you can't just spin your Allen key in infinity. You know, your Allen key is gonna hit your bars, so you're gonna have to break it loose. We're gonna just break all 4 though. So now I'm gonna do this one. Okay, got it broke loose. And we're gonna do this back corner. I'm gonna break this back corner loose. And then we'll break this last one loose. So now you'll see my bars fall down pretty easily. What I like to do is I like to set it on here, and then I can just turn the Allen wrench this way and just do really quickly. So if your stem bolt is too tight and you can't get it off, you can pry it off. So let's imagine that my stem bolt is really tight and I'm trying to loosen it. It's not loosening. So you can get something like a pipe, you can get something like a fork, I guess. You can get something like a wrench, and you just want to slide it on there halfway. Now, this is my point of leverage. So now I'm pulling from here on this bolt, and it's gonna just easily come loose. Now, obviously it was already loose, but honestly doing that is gonna save your game. You can also do that to torque it. I'll show you that when we put on the new stem. Don't over torque, especially these hollow bolts. They will not last very good. But yeah, the pro tip. So now that we got our stem bolts loose, we're just gonna put our Allen key on and we're gonna loosen away, okay? And if they're kind of tight and not loosening very good, it might be because there's some pressure caused by your bars. So just make sure that they're resting on there good and they're not causing any pressure on your stem. I'm just gonna loosen everything. All right, boom, bars come off. Look at that dirty mess. We'll just, I'm gonna set the bolts back in and just turn them just a little bit. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this stem off of the forks. And this is a little bit harder to do, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not super hard, but it could be a pain if this is like, if you're not prepared for it, okay? So these bolts here on the side, these are called pinch bolts. And what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna have to loosen each one and then loosen the top cap. Sometimes you can break the top cap loose first, but it's a lot harder if these aren't loosened. So loosen these first, put them in, pry down. You don't have to loosen them a ton, but what's happening here is that as these tighten, it's pulling the stem together and making it tighter. So if you loosen them and you still can't get your stem to come off, you need to loosen them more. And even then, I might regret taking the bars off. If you're kind of ghetto like me, I'll show you what issue you might run into. But now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put our Allen key in our top cap here, and we're gonna break it loose. And I don't have much leverage. I'm gonna hold the wheel and just kind of, boom. Okay, got it broke loose, good. Then we can just do this and turn it out this way. So there, we didn't have very many threads in. These forks are super tall. Set that down, and what's gonna happen here is over time, especially if you put this on without grease, it's gonna like seize on there and it's gonna be a little bit hard. So the best way to get this off is to wiggle it back and forth. You can do that by grabbing onto the stem and grabbing onto the forks or the wheel and kind of breaking it back and forth like this. that's gonna start to wiggle it off and then it'll come off, okay? So we've got our old stem off. This is all still holding on, luckily. Okay, so I turned my bike upside down so I can just keep it on the bike stand and I don't have to worry about my forks falling out. You guys don't have a bike stand. I just got this for the sake of these videos and I'm kind of hating having a bike stand. Like, it's just easier to set it on the fucking ground and not worry about this shit. But anyway, there we go. We're just gonna leave it like that and we'll put the stem on, and I got it levitating upside down just for the sake of having it on the bike rack. And anyway, I got grease on my hands, so I'm gonna wipe that off before I get my stem. All right, so when you're installing a new stem, these are gonna be already loose, and so when you install, if you put in new bolts like I did, just don't tighten these because you don't want them to be tightened. You're just gonna slide it along the forks. And if your top cap and stuff came off when you took off your stem, just go ahead and put those back on there. And then we're gonna just slide our stem onto the forks. It should slide on very nicely and we shouldn't have any issues. This gold kind of looks terrible, but I don't think I have one to replace it with. Yeah, this gold top cap's the only one I have, and so that'll fit. Like, I need a lot of room here. Once you have your stem on, you're gonna just thread on this is called a compression cap. You're gonna thread on your compression cap. Just get it started, then I'm gonna flip the bike back around and work not upside down. Get it started so the stem doesn't fall off. Okay, cool. Started, we're gonna flip the bike around. All right, so now we have our shiny new stem on our forks. We need to tighten down our compression cap. Tightening the compression cap pulls the forks up and keeps everything tight. Right now, this is really loose and wobbly, and so if you don't tighten that very good, you're gonna have a big problem. So we're gonna get our Allen wrench again, and we're just gonna set it in there on the top, and we're gonna tighten it down. You wanna hold your forks while you're doing this, just to keep it from spinning around too much. And I'm gonna test it more, and maybe I'll do one more crank. We're still gonna have to align it, and we'll do that after we get the bars on, and I'll just take it off the ground. I'm gonna snug up these caps, but I'm still gonna leave them loose because we need, like I said, we need to align it. So I'm just gonna snug it up. Okay, we're gonna take our stem bolts off. Your stem's gonna come with stem bolts in it, and you're gonna need to take them off before you put your bars in. Okay, got our top cap off. I'm gonna set it in a safe place. What you wanna do next is get your handlebars. And if these are handlebars, like you're switching out old bars onto a new stem, what you want to do, look at how dirty and gross this is. See all that? That's metal shavings from these being held in place and trying to move. So we're going to get a rag and we're just going to wipe that off. And you can scuff up your knurling a little bit more, but these are fine. So we just want to wipe it off. We don't want any dirt. We don't want any metal shavings. We don't want any grease coming in here in our new stem, because if that happens, then it's gonna slip and we don't want that. So I'm gonna flip this and set my bars in place. And so I want you guys to notice here that you want this to be lined up. So we wanna make sure that this line is close to this line and this line's close to this line. And this happens when you're placing it in, so make sure that it looks lined up. Sometimes your knurling will stretch farther. This is knurling right here. Sometimes your knurling will stretch farther than the stem and it'll be outside of here on both sides. But as long as it's even, sometimes it'll go in a little bit, it'll go in too much, but you just wanna make sure that it's lined up. Because imagine how wonky your bike's gonna feel if your bars are like tightened like this. It's way longer over here on the left side than the right side. That's goofy. So we're just gonna line it up. That looks good to me. Does that look good to you? Then we'll get our top cap. Boom. And we're gonna drop in our stem bolts. I just do like one turn with my hand. from here, you can go ahead and just snug these down. Tighten down the stem bolts. But once it starts to feel like it's getting snug, you're gonna wanna stop. So that's all I'm gonna do on that one. This one's a little stubborn. There we go. These holes are like the perfect size for these, and so they're kind of getting hard to force through, but. And I started here, then I went over to this one, then I went over to this one. Which one do you think I'm gonna go to next? Yes, this one, good job. And you notice these are all just like, I'm barely tightening them. I'm not giving them the wrath of God, right? Just slightly tightening them for two reasons. One, we still need to align our bars by standing our bars up, okay? That's one. Two, if you just tighten one bolt more than the other bolts, it's gonna be really flush here, it's gonna be really tight here, and it's gonna be offset, and so you're actually not getting a good tightness. And I'll show you that when we crank these around. But we need to make sure that our bars are aligned. And you're like, how do you align your bars? Okay, let me show you. I always rode my bars like this because I didn't know any better. Wrong, okay? What you wanna do is you wanna align them so they look kind of level, and then you wanna look down the side. And so you see, if you draw an imaginary line from your forks going up, you want your bars to follow that same line. So I'm gonna look at my forks, and I'm going to align my bars so that they line up with the forks. My bars need to go back just a smidge, so I moved them back. Then that's too much, so now I'm gonna push them forward a bit. My stem's offset. There. To me, that looks pretty good. And then I typically have mine just a little bit more forward, but that looks pretty level, so that's good. We're chilling. If I need to adjust it, I'll adjust it once I'm off the stand. Okay, so we've got our handlebars kind of lined up. The way that I did that too, just so you guys know, I snugged them, like I snugged just a quarter of a turn against, like, you know, I gave it a little bit more pressure so it would hold the bars in place so they didn't fall, but I could still force movement with my hand. You want to do that very sparingly and very lightly. But you know, I tightened it a teeny tiny bit so it held it in place and I could still fidget it. And that's what you want to do there when you're adjusting your bars. Otherwise, if they're all loose, your bars are just going to fall down when you're trying to adjust them, and that's not very fun. So next I'm going to cross over to this guy and I'm going to give it a few cranks until it starts to feel snug. Then you go back to this one, give it a good turn. You go back to this one, you give it a good turn. There, that feels pretty good right there. Got my handlebars lined up, we got my handlebars tight. Now we need to make sure that my stem and my tire are lined up. You want this to be facing forward and you want this to be facing the same amount of forward. And that's done by adjusting these pinch bolts here and kind of lining it up this way. So that is not aligned. This is pretty aligned, but I'm gonna tilt it down so I can really tell. Okay. Gonna look at it, it's off just a little bit. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can kind of see it. Off just a little bit, and I think that's good. I think we've got it. Now we're gonna tighten up these pinch bolts on the side. You wanna get these really tight and just make sure that your bars still spin. If you tighten your compression cap too much, your handlebars won't spin very good. So you wanna make sure that they spin, but you also wanna make sure that there's no play in there. I don't feel any play, everything feels good. So I'm gonna crank down those pinch bolts. I really tighten my stuff, guys. Like, there's no way none of it's gonna be moving after that. All right, and that is how you install a BMX stem. It was This is a pretty easy one, guys. You just need the 6mm Allen key. You just need to loosen 6 bolts and then tighten 6 bolts again. Line up your bars, line up your stem, and everything is good. If you have any questions or anything like that, join the BMX Nerd Network. It's a huge community of bike riders who can help answer your tech questions, your trick questions, whatever you're trying to learn. We're in there to help you out.